All right, y'all. So this is going to be an interesting story. However, it's going to be very short. There was, when I was a Citrix administrator, I worked at this company, and that was after TCS. Speaking of which, I should have made a link to. I'm gonna do that. Okay, I gotta remember to link that Boston story to the first TCS story. So I'm gonna start plugging some of the stories so you guys can kind of follow along what year when things happened. So this story, I was working as a Citrix administrator. Now, remember on my second book, I talked about looking at job descriptions and decodifying them, and not debunking them, but decodifying them, breaking the code. They would say certain things and you don't really know what it means because they either have proprietary software or they don't want to flat out say this is DevOps or Citrix or whatever the case may be, because they know once they put that title in and you know what this is, they got to pay that 80 to 100 a lot of times. So they'll say something like tech support. They'll say tech support or something like that. So I'm sitting in the office. I got my Apple Mac. This was probably around the time when I think I bought an Apple Mac. I took out student loans and stuff and I got an Apple Mac, or I took money out, or I don't know. But I bought an Apple Mac and I bought it for around $1,000, maybe around 2013, 2012, something like that. And I was using it for school, and I think I was using it, when I was creating music and stuff like that. So, and we'll get into that era. I just want to, like I told you, I want to present it in a real good way. When me and my homie Stack Doe from South High, we started kind of recording, and I kind of go into everything that was kind of going on around that time. That time, I was probably getting a little more money, so I was able to acquire certain things, pay for studio time. Me and him was on some Ghostface and Ray kind of stuff. Like, we was pretty good. Like, what I might do is I might go through all the music we was doing and stuff, because that's a part of the journey. This was when I was telling you about with TeamViewer. I was in the studio and I forgot my lyrics, and I had to log in to get the lyrics so I could read them. So I'm using this Apple Mac. I'm at home. This was maybe around the time when I just start kind of picking up on some of the stuff Umar was saying about psychology and how they do things to especially black boys and black people in the schools, because he's a psychologist. And I'm not going to get into details on, about the school situation and stuff like that. We kind of know what's going on with that, whatever, but what I'm saying is those books that he has and he wrote, you have the experience. Now, whether or not folks think he's capping and doing all that, but he knows what he's talking about when it comes to that stuff. He has experience in it. So outside of some of the other little things that's going on, that man knows what he's talking about. Now, there was a Vlad TV that I was listening to. It's fair use. I was listening to this broadcast when it dropped, and I agreed 100%. I said, okay, this dude, he was talking about Barack, Mr. Drink the Flint water ass nigga. I voted for his ass once, never did it again. Anyway, so I'm kind of resonating because we used to always hear these old ass Negroes talk about what you need to do, and they never have no solutions or no answers. So the idea that we should just wait in a line just because someone told us to do so, and we're not getting any specific tangible benefits. You see what I'm saying? So I'm sitting here kind of listening to and okay, as a backdrop, I'm sitting here listening to Umar, and then 5 minutes later, maybe some Yo Gotti or something. So I was at TCS in 2015. I'm listening to these little Vlad interviews and all these different people, and I'm listening to Cress Welsing and, you know, Hidden Color. You know, I'm listening to a lot of the scholars that didn't get that bootleg check. You see what I'm saying? I'm listening to a lot of them, John Henry Clark, folks that, yeah, they wasn't going to put them all through CNN and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they really went through the ropes and stuff like that. So I would say more of the grandmaster teachers, the underground, the people that they just wouldn't have been popular because they weren't gonna sell us down a river just so they could get some cushy corporate job, and they could have easily did that. Henry Clark and J.A. Rogers and all, they could have easily went and got the bag, but they didn't. So these are the people that I'm kind of listening to, bits and pieces. I'm reading the Henry Clark stuff. I'm just kind of getting my mind together because I was always an avid reader. So I had heard about Umar. I think matter of fact, I might have even went to him coming up here in Minneapolis. He came up here a couple times. The first time I missed him. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at the internet. The internet's getting more and more. So I'm listening to this Vlad interview that I'm going to play. I had it on my Apple Mac. So when I came to work, I'd have my Apple Mac, and then I had maybe some headphones, so I could just do whatever little personal stuff I want to do when I in between. I ain't got no tickets. I mean, there was literally, you just kind of sitting there. There's not much you could do. You could read Citrix documentation, whatever. So after, maybe 5 months in or 6 months in or whatever, I brought my Apple Mac computer. So this pops up and I'm listening to it. The thing with the Mac, when you open up the Mac, I went to go use the bathroom. So when you open up the Mac, I think it gets automatically signed in. It was some kind of way where this YouTube just popped up and the volume was loud as hell. I'm in the bathroom, so I'm not knowing that it's playing. I think I must have just cut my Mac, or opened the thing, cut my Mac on, and then I think maybe Chrome or one of those gets opened up and it's just playing what you just recently heard. So it could have been anything. This is an ultimate blunder. So this is what my co-workers was listening to when I was in the bathroom. This is what they was listening to. I want y'all to play. I want to play this
on a number of occasions.
Fair use, YouTube. Fair use. Let me turn this up so y'all can.
Yes. Now I'll be honest. As someone who grew up in the U.S., I remember watching the old Chris Rock stand-up specials where he said there's never going to be a black president.
I remember that.
There's never even going to be a black vice president, because the first thing that'll happen is some black guy is going to kill the president, be a hero in prison, because the vice president will then become the president. I was honestly surprised that in my lifetime there was a black president and a two-term black and used them as, if not the world.
I would say he's not a role model. A role model is someone whom you would like other African-American boys to aspire to be. When you look at President Barack Obama's political behavior in the White House towards African-Americans, I cannot in good conscience want any African-American boy to emulate the neglect that the president has shown for African-Americans. In fact, when you look at the black reality, each index of black progress has actually regressed since Obama has been in the White House. Dropout is higher, unemployment is worse, incarceration is higher, police brutality has almost went back to the days of Reconstruction, pre-Jim Crow. Mind you, he's done nothing about it. Okay, now I understand the argument. He's president for the United States of America. He's not just president of Black America. I understand, but here's the issue with that, Black. America is not a amalgamation of different ethnicities. America is a solid bowl, okay? And in a solid bowl, you still have every vegetable maintaining its own uniqueness. A solid is not a suit. In a suit,
Okay, so let me see. Let me see if I can get to the place where when I came back.
from the president of the United States. How can you say he's the president of all people when he's actually criticizing Obama as much as I? His choice of words may be different, but he would have to, because even Dr. King spoke of how the power structure loves to use black faces to hide the racist agenda of the system. In fact, before Obama got elected, I'm the only black scholar I know of prominence, who actually said this was not going to be a good thing for black folks. And people said, how can you say that? I said, it's real simple. Look at the condition of black people with black politicians in office. Do you realize since the rise of the black politician, post-civil rights, post-Dr. King assassination, the condition of the black community gets worse?
That's true.
The more we elect black people. We get a black governor, we do worse. A black mayor, we do worse.
You donated $1.2 million to Barack Obama's campaign?
Yo, where you getting these information from?
Is that not true?
I'm starting to think you CIA, man. That backs
the country. What we need is black power. Put that money in a black PAC, political action committee, and then that way we can hold running behind Hillary. We think she's going to do something. We think. Stop like the way it looks, so you grab it. You didn't look at the ingredients. You didn't look at the price. You didn't look at how long the bread has been there. I'm just going to buy it because this is the bread that my mom always bought. How you know that's the healthiest bread for your family?
And see, that was that was a thing that a lot of these old civil rights Negroes, the ones that you see that's always trying to drag you into church every Sunday, ain't got no solutions or answers. So I'm listening to some of this stuff, and there's a lot of things where I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, I had already been having a lot of thoughts as to just how things was going, and me not liking how it was going, and then looking at some of the folks that's older than me that got all these wild ideas but ain't got nothing in fruition. So it kind of resonated. I'm coming back from my break or whatever I was doing. This is going on for about 10 minutes straight. I think it was this video, and he's just going in on Barack. Oh man, he's going in. So I come back and I look at my Apple Mac, and it's Umar just going in. And I said, oh man. So they knew what kind of dude I was. They knew it wasn't going to be no shucking and jiving around there. Now, this environment, this wasn't a so-called liberal environment. These were all right-wing, heavy conservative, kind of leaning. The whole company was kind of that, to my knowledge. They were kind of like that, except for like one dude or whatever. But you know, like that was kind of which way they went. And one of the head engineers, my thing was, I'm apologizing based on me playing loud content at work. Wasn't apologizing for the content itself or what he said. But so I'm like, my bad, y'all. I didn't even know that because I'm thinking maybe they thought that I'm playing this on purpose just to, but well, who does that? Who would just open this up just to try to push what their narrative or what they believe in or whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? So, and one of the guys made a joke and said something like, well, at least it wasn't something. I can't remember what he said, but he said at least it wasn't. So they sitting there listening to this, probably like, because I know they weren't really fans of Barack. You know what I'm saying? They didn't like Democrats. So they probably sitting there kind of listening to this, kind of like, oh yeah, he's speaking truth to power, whatever, you know. So, but me, I'm kind of thinking, man, they might let me go. That's what I was thinking when I sat down and stuff like that, because it was uncomfortable. I was like, damn. I said, man, I think they said something like, oh, you know, at least it wasn't porn or something like that, because they probably would have cut it off with that. They ain't gonna let that, you know what I'm saying? But they let it ride. You know, they didn't press pause or whatever, because I'm going around the corner and I'm hearing. Let me see if it's this part right here. Hold on, let me see. Let me try to find out what part it was on. Let me see what part it was on.
As much as we do, because the purpose of black people to work. Every church I know of is colorblind. They don't deal with black issues. God loves everybody. We can't see colors, which means you can't solve the problems of black people. So we have to look at how the black community is set up. It's not by accident. So if I'm running for office, guess the first place I'm going to go? The first place I'm going to visit if I'm running for office. Let me see.
Is this the one? I think it was. This says 5 years ago. This says 9 years ago. I think it was that one. I'm missing you. Tony Yayo. All right. Well. Yeah, so anyway, that's my story on that. It was, you know, it wasn't going to be that long, but you know, like, if you have personal laptops, y'all, it's a good idea. A lot of companies don't even let you bring them or whatever. This is a small company, conservative, right-wing leaning kind of people. Like I told y'all, when I went to a different Citrix administration position, it was worse. Now, the guy that was supposed to have been training me in or whatever, he was undermining me, not giving me IP addresses. He was doing some undermining. He was teaching me a little bit, but he was doing some undermining. The owner wanted me to stay or whatever, which would have been a good idea for me to do so. I probably should have. But going back into big corporate, that was a mistake on my end, because they undermined me even more. That was the company downtown what they did is they put a buffer. They put Patel. They had an Indian dude undermine me directly. And what they did with me is they said, well, don't train him. I always talk about that story. They said, you know, don't train him. And they were doing all kinds of little grimy backhanded stuff, which I thought was real foul. And they did that open-handed. You know what I'm saying? They did that very open-handed. They pretty much were, they said, hey, do not train Derek, make it hard on him on purpose, which I've never been in an environment that said anything like that. I've experienced them doing that action, but they actually said it and they implemented it. And the manager backed him. So you had the lead, you had the Indian immigrant coon, and then you had the manager that backed it full throttle. I wish I would have recorded all that stuff. I would have gave it to y'all. I wouldn't have gave a damn. If y'all could have heard this stuff, it was crazy. But that's what happens when you think the green. See, in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go over to the law and order. I'm gonna go over to the left wing of racism, white supremacy. I'm gonna go over there because it's gonna be nicer. It's gonna be more laws. It's gonna be more order. It's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's gonna be more law and order. And it was more laws, more so-called order, more ethics, board of directors, board of this, ethics here, HR there. You got a a whole floor of HR, about 50 HR people. Law after law after law after law, and undermine after undermine after undermine. You see what I'm saying? So what I tell some of the young people, what's the solution to that? What do you do in that situation? If you're at a small company, because a small company, a lot of times, you may not be as pigeon-toed. If it's it's an MSP, it was a managed service company, I would have learned more long-term on being able to do this stuff. Citrix is one of them things that you learn. It's like a cog wheel. You're learning it. If you ever open up a motor and see what a motor looks like, if you see a transmission hooked up to a motor, specifically 350 rocket, go online and look up the inside of a motor. That's my best way of talking about Citrix. You have the MCS, you have the PVS, image creation, you have SQL Server, you got a server over here. Let's just say server 2008 release 2, server 2012 release 2. Let's just say you have all these different components and they all talk to each other. You see what I'm saying? That's Citrix. People still use Citrix, but a lot of people are now using, they're using the cloud, they're using AWS. So anybody that read my first book, as I tell y'all, take the new technology and apply it to the concept of getting in the game. It's getting super, 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 super competitive out here. The jobs ain't really cracking like they should. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is something I want to show y'all real quick that I was working with. I try to reach out to some of my buddies and whatnot, but this is a position, and I'm going to show it to y'all. This position is a long-term contract out in Maple Grove. Now that's kind of West Metro. The West Metro or East? West Metro, North Metro, Maple Grove. It could be with DRC, I'm not sure. Long-term contract, on site from day one. So listen to what they want you to do. They're saying, and I'm just gonna blow this up so y'all can see it just by itself. They're saying provide hands-on desktop support for desktops, laptops, IT equipment, troubleshoot, resolve hardware, install OS and apps, support end users remotely. So they might have some companies across the way. Maintain inventory of IT equipment, collaborate with IT teams for escalations. All right, so all they're really doing is they're talking about this basic break fix, 30 an hour. I think I know what company it is. I do. I think I know what company it is. But this will be the last story time for tonight. I think what I'm gonna do is get ready to hang it up pretty quick. I'm gonna upload all these other story times. I might do one more. Maybe I'll do one more, and then maybe do a couple tomorrow or whatever the case may be. That's what I'm thinking about. So this is my story. When my Apple Mac just started playing stuff. So I'll get this uploaded to y'all. Y'all take care.